For me, I want that water churning. I want the water moving, and I have seen too many times where you've just got winds like variable, and I get a bite, but that wind starts picking up, and all of a sudden the fish get active.
Welcome to the Eternal Fishing Podcast. This is the podcast where a passion for fishing meets timeless biblical principles. Here we're casting our lines into the water, but also into the Word of God. This episode is part 2 of a call with David Ward from Florence, South Carolina, who is a veteran freshwater striper fisherman, and he just shares a lot of great information. And this particular part of the call, he's talking about using maps and topographic maps and his approach to going to a new lake or a new place and catching fish. And so I hope that is very helpful for you in your fishing journeys. I also wanted to mention that there are a lot of other episodes that we've done already. It's covering all kinds of fishing, whether it's largemouth bass or going after redfish in the salt marshes. So take a look at the other episodes already published. And I also wanted to let you know that I've done some really interesting calls here recently. I've done an interview with a speckled sea trout specialist out of Jacksonville, North Carolina. I've done a call with an Orvis endorsed fly fishing guide up on the Smith River in Virginia. I've done a call with a primitive survival specialist and author and fly fishing guide out of upstate South Carolina, and have some other great interviews lined up as well. So stay tuned for some great content coming out here soon. I just wanted you to know that that was on the way. Before we go back into part 2 with David Ward, let me give us a couple quotes here. One is from someone called Zane Grey. He says this: "A man with a map has already begun his adventure." The verse for us comes from Psalm 32, verse 8. God says this: "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." Enjoy part 2.
Where there's striped bass and you've never fished it before, and you have one morning to go out, or let's just say one day to go out and catch them. What do you do to even get started?
Well, I can tell you a story that happened.
Sure. Yeah.
I was once married to a lady in Tennessee, so I used to go up there quite often. And I had gone up there. I had carried my boat with me, and I asked her where the closest lake was. We made plans to go, and we went up to Cherokee Lake.
Okay.
Probably about, say 30, 40 miles east of Knoxville. I got a map. I picked out a landing. It was towards the lower end of the lake. We went, put in. I just started looking around at depths. I just did some big circles and started looking around for depths. Like, okay, trying to kind of scout out an area that I could troll.
Okay.
I went to the very farthest point of that lake where it was a dead end. I went into a cove. I came out just checking all the depths, and it seemed like every graph I've ever had in my life loves to lie to you. it would just tell you there are hundreds and hundreds of fish everywhere you go.
Right.
So anyway, my knowledge of the fishing regulations in Tennessee at the time were not too good, but I had some of my uncle's double rigs. So we went back into this creek and started trolling out. It was like 15 feet in the channel. And so we had double rigs. We had, a spinnerbait and a bucktail on each rod. And we started smoking the fish. We were catching white bass, hybrids, stripers, largemouth, smallmouth. we were tearing them up. Had never been to this lake before, so it's 100% luck. And I only found out later from a guide that I was talking to that we were catching them illegally. You can only have one hook per line in
Oh,
Tennessee. You
I,
can have 10 baits on it. You can have 10 baits on one line, but only one of those baits can have a hook.
oh man.
So I had two baits on each line,
Yeah.
and they had hooks on them. Both lures had hooks on them. So we were literally catching hybrids, stripers,
Oh my goodness.
bass, a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
two at a time in there. And so to, to go back and answer your question, you need to scout it out. You can't just, you can get a lake map or, today's electronics, you've got lake maps on your graph.
Right.
So
Right.
you need to look for depths that you're accustomed to or you think that will be a good area to target drop offs. I love drop offs.
Mm.
For me, that is, something I look for in new areas.
And how do you spot those on the map?
A drop off, just looking at your depth.
So just waiting to see the depth
Yeah,
drop,
I mean,
or do you look at the topographic map?
yeah, I mean, like for me, I don't use the maps, the lake maps or anything. I'm just sitting there looking at my depth,
Uh-huh. Yep.
and say if I'm on a flat, I'm in 20 feet of water, and just look for the edge of a creek drop off.
Okay.
Say it drops from 20 to 30 feet right there, and say, okay, well, you're in a creek or a channel, and I usually look for fish in that area on those drops.
And so once you find the drop, do you stay in that creek, or do you kind of zigzag back and forth across the drop off, or how do you fish it in
I
particular?
like working back and forth across the drop off.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's something I have found that seems to pay off more often than not.
That's good to
They
know.
seem to be on drop offs like that. So you want to kind of zigzag. Say if you're in a channel and there is an area, it's at Lake Marion that I like to do that too. It's a little creek. It's got flats on both sides of it for a long ways, and I like zigzagging in and out that creek, going up the bank, back down, up the bank,
Okay.
back down.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Now, do you find that the stripers do things differently during different seasons? You notice any patterns based on seasons?
Like I told you, they are so unpredictable. I will say this: I think you'll find a more consistent bite the later in the year
Okay.
as the bait starts. Say if the water temperature starts dropping, the water temperature gets on into the say low 60s, 50s, and your bait starts congregating and kind of clumping up, the striper bite will improve.
Okay.
Because yeah, you find that bait and you start looking for the fish, feeding. You look for your arches feeding in and out of that bait.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I personally don't like big blobs of bait. I like bait balls.
Okay.
Finding fish between those bait balls. I just like that space between the bait.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. So another way I've caught them is with a spoon. So I've found a spot up on Carr Lake where if I ever go back up there, I'll probably go there just because I've had success, and I just sit in that spot and I cast the Hopkins spoon, and
Hmm.
I just kind of jig it back as I reel it in, and I've had pretty good success catching smaller stripers, but it was a really good successful way to catch them, and then just kind of troll around and look at on the graph for they kind of, to me, I don't know if it was just me, but they seemed to make like almost like a line on the graph. The stripers did. It seemed a little
Hmm.
different than the others, but I would jig the Hopkins spoon, and I just got to where I just love fishing for them with a spoon like that.
Yeah.
It's just fun to catch them. But But trolling is fun. I think that's trolling is where I caught the bigger ones. But the jigging was maybe a little bit more active feeding of the smaller ones. But and have you tried the spoon method?
About the only time I ever try the spoons is, like I said, once the temperature drops to a certain, say if it gets down below 50, you're getting borderline where those fish are going to quit feeding.
Okay.
But your bait is really clumped up at that time, and to catch striper at that point, you pretty much have to drop it in front of their nose.
Right.
And so, yes, that's probably one of the better methods, is to find that bait, find the fish feeding or find the fish hanging around them,
Okay.
and go to that spoon and just start jigging and,
Okay.
up and down in that, in that bait ball, and just,
Right.
like I said, they're not gonna, striper don't, once it gets cold, they're not gonna, and they're already full, like December, January, they start slowing down, becoming a little more lethargic, and they're not gonna put forth a lot of energy going after food.
Right. Right. Okay.
It's got to be, they're so big and fat at that point. They're pretty much just grabbing what's in front of them.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Now,
And, they make that move toward the river to spawn. Normally, I would say on average, say February.
okay. So they're spawning about in February.
Yeah, they start making that move toward the river.
Right. The
At
river
least
that
here,
feeds the lake.
yeah,
Yep.
and they don't all go at once. But I'd say most of them start to move around February, March.
Right. Okay. I remember we rented a house one time on Car Lake. I think this was anyhow. I don't remember exactly when, but we rented a house on Car Lake one time, and we took our little boat up. And I remember in the house we rented, there was a map that talked about the migration of the stripers on that lake, at certain times of the year. And it just was, I should have taken a picture of it, but I just remember it being such a great tool. I don't know how accurate it is, because how predictable are they? But it was neat just to think about, okay, maybe during this time of year they might be moving up into the river a little bit more versus the main body of the lake. So it's just helpful, I think, anything like that, just to try to target it somewhat.
Right.
So, now, I wanted to ask you, one of the things, at least the guys on car lakes seem to do a lot, and I've seen others on, like YouTube doing it, is they use umbrella rigs to troll for stripers. Have you tried the umbrella rigs, or what's your thought on that?
I have not. However, a lot of your guides, matter of fact, I went with one last year, and because a buddy of mine came in from Wisconsin with his son, and they wanted to go, so I met them up at Water End. This guy was using the umbrella rigs, Alabama rigs, whatever you want to call them,
Right.
and that's the way he catches his striper. And I can tell you, he does really well.
Yeah. What was he using on his rig there?
All he had, like, I think each one held about seven to eight little jigs.
Right.
And he had those, like each one of them was like a 2.5, maybe a 3-inch green, like a little rubber fish.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
I forget what they call them. I'm
Like
sorry.
a little mini swim bait type thing.
Yeah, I forget. I'm just drawing a blank.
Yeah. I know what you're
got
talking
it.
about. There's just looks like a little rubber fish that you hook on a
Yeah.
jig head.
Yeah, but
Yep.
that's what he had. He had little chartreuse swim baits on all of it, and did real well.
Okay.
So,
Good
but
stuff.
I'll tell you, one reason I don't do it is because, all right, you've got 4 or 5 ounces of bait on there,
Right.
probably $10 or $15 worth of bait.
I know. Yeah.
And if you put 4 of those out, and there's only 2 of you in the boat, and you say you double up, well, you got 2 of them on there that you're not going to get back because they're going to drop to the bottom.
Right.
So that's the only reason.
I know. Yeah.
I guess I should try it we're just two of us in the boat and just fish 2 rods. But I like fishing 4 and 5
Right.
rods.
Right. Gosh,
I
I've
love increasing my chances.
I've lost, 25, $35, maybe more in rig just because I didn't see that there was a pile of trees down there that I just snagged real nice. You know, I've done that before and with my umbrella rigs. And so, I kind of like the simplicity of just trolling a simple, like single lure. There's something
Hmm.
nice and simple about that. You can adjust your
Right.
depth quickly
Right.
if you need to. So that's good. That's good. Well, what advice would you have, David, for someone that's trying to get into striper fishing, maybe for the first time? And what would you say to them?
Well, when it comes to striper, I would say you absolutely have to be patient. You have to learn a little bit about their patterns. Get out there and try your creeks. Go run the channels. Look for drop offs. Look for somebody with some local advice. I mean, there's tons of people out there willing to share information. You can find out pretty much anything. There's a lot of good people left in this world, and they
Mm,
are glad to share information. And like I say, the their personalities on these lakes, the striper personalities are different. I'm
right.
telling you, the striper at Watery is not the same striper that you have at Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie. It's just a different breed of fish, and I can't explain how or why. They just act different on those two lakes. I don't know whether it's because Watery is a river lake,
Mm,
and
mm,
it
right.
fluctuates, so much as compared to like Marion and Moultrie. But yeah, I mean, just go out there and get you some fair priced rod and reels.
Yeah.
I prefer 15-pound test line. I think the lighter the line, the better.
Okay. Are you
But
fishing monofilament, fluorocarbon, braid?
yeah, I just use regular old Berkeley big game mono, 15
Okay.
pound,
Yep.
and
Which
I
color?
like just the clear.
Just the clear. Okay.
Uh huh. I
Okay.
mean, there's some guys that use the green. I like the lighter line again for the challenge, but I also feel that the lighter the line, the less visibility.
Right. Right.
So
Does the lighter line allow the lure to go deeper, or is
it
there?
does,
It does.
absolutely. The
Okay.
lighter the line, the deeper you're going to get.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's good
those are
to know.
big depth.
And do you tie directly to the lure, or do you go to one of the swivel clasp type
I
systems?
use I use a number 7 safety swivel.
Okay. Okay. And that lets you change out your lures
Mhm.
pretty easily there, and helps keep it from getting tangled up.
Right.
It's twisting up on you. Yeah. Okay. Well, what's the biggest striper you remember catching?
Okay, you remember I was telling you they put a moratorium on that sand too.
Right. Yeah.
They did that, and I was not happy about it. They did that back in
I
2008.
bet you can't even try to catch them, even if you're planning to release them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean they only did it for 3 months,
But
but
that's 3 months. Come on.
yeah,
You were used to going 2 or 3 times a week.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a lot of fishing.
but I will say this, because they've done that, people might disagree with me, but I will say I have caught the biggest stripers I've ever caught in Santee. I caught, let's see, 4 years ago, I caught a 21 pounder.
Wow. Nice.
And the year after that, 2 or maybe 3 years ago, I can't remember, I caught a 25 pounder.
Wow.
So that's the two biggest I've caught out of Santee.
Were you
Now,
trolling?
yes,
I bet that rod was bent over pretty good.
yes.
On a 15-pound test?
I'll tell you the 25 pounder, I did not, I was in an area, I had gone into a channel, and I knew I had stumps pretty much on both sides of me when I came out of that channel. And that rascal hung me up twice,
Wow.
and we still got him to the boat. And I was just absolutely shocked. I had a video of him releasing him because I did cut him loose. But yeah, that one really caught me off guard. I was not expecting a 25-pound fish that day.
And did you catch him on 15-pound
15
test?
pound test, and I pulled him through a tree. I mean, there was something down there he kept hanging up on, but we, just kind of kept the line tight. It finally just broke loose and hung up again. And I knew the area I was in was, it was going to be iffy if we weren't expecting no 25-pound fish either.
Right. Yeah.
We kind of been dogging them or horsing them in from, the 8 to 10 pounders. But the big boy didn't want to come up quite as easy.
That just goes to show you can still catch large fish on lighter test line if you play them right and have your drag
Right.
set and
Absolutely.
don't horse them in. But when you're dealing with stumps and everything like that, that makes it a real challenge on light line.
It does. It really does. So, like I say, I was excited to get that fish in.
Yeah. Did you get a picture of it?
I do. I'll send it to you if
I'd
you'd like.
I'd love to see it. Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
maybe we could use it on the podcast cover here.
Okay. I'll be
Okay.
glad to send it to you.
That'd be great. Yeah. So I had another question for you, David. You said
Sure.
you like to fish, you said 4 or 5 lines?
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I'll
how do
say,
you manage that behind the boat? How do you do that?
well, I put two at the very back corner, one on each side, and then I put one right beside me at the steering wheel, and my buddy's got one on his side up there at his seat. And on this boat, which I haven't done it yet, I normally put one right in the middle in the back,
Okay.
standing it straight up. So yeah, you put the back ones further out, and the front rods you put just a little bit shorter so it stays below that line, the
Right.
back lines. Yeah, and you just when depending on say if the back rod gets hit, say if my buddy's got a fish on his back corner, then I take the boat out of gear, run over, and start getting his front rod out of the way, and he's fighting the fish on his back rod. And as soon as I get his front rod in, I go over and start making sure that mine are out of the way, because if you've caught striper,
Yep.
when you catch them, one of the first things they love to do is start taking off across the top of the water. And yeah, when they come up, they love just shooting across the water. So you try to get these lines out of the way as quick as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Man, that's great. That's great. So do you normally go fishing with a buddy, or
Yeah,
do you do it by
yeah.
yourself sometimes, or?
Well, now I used to. With this boat, I'm afraid I don't know that I'm gonna be able to handle this one by myself. But it's a little bigger,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, normally, and plus, I'm just getting to an age where it's probably not too safe
Right.
to go
Sure.
alone.
Sure.
You know, I'm
And it
getting kind of clumsy.
well, it's fun to share the experience of being on the water with someone else too.
It
It's
is.
it's nice to do that. So that's great. Well, one other question here for you is, have you noticed any differences in your style of fishing or in your approach of fishing, maybe based off of things like weather or moon phases? Any of that come into play for you?
Absolutely. Striper loves nasty weather. They love it. The nastier, the better. If you can stand it, say if you got 10 to 15 mile an hour winds and misty rain, you got a good chance of catching stripers. I love it. Today, we weren't supposed to have any rain, and it started sprinkling and misting. And when it started sprinkling and misting, when we caught those fish. So I love overcast. I love wind. Wind is your friend.
So what you're telling me is there's really not a bad day to go striper fishing.
I'll put it this way. I don't like a bluebird sky.
Okay.
I
Okay.
do not like a bluebird sky. I've just, I've been skunked more on bluebird skies than any other time. So I love overcast, which I think goes back to the striper being more or less a nocturnal fish.
Right. Right.
And so I think just that overcast, less light, sunlight helps keep them in a feeding mood.
Yeah. That's a good I was going to ask you your theory on that. So it sounds like it might be related to light,
Yeah,
right? So if you got a lot of wind and wave action, then that's choppy, and so not as much light is getting down. I get that. Okay.
Now, when I say that for the guy that's, wanting to striper fish using live bait, he's not going to want 10 to 15 mile an hour wind.
Right. Right. True.
For me, I want that water churning. I want the water moving. And I have seen too many times where, you've just got winds like variable and
Uh
not get a bite. But that wind starts picking up and all of a sudden the fish get active.
huh. That's kind of encouraging though. It tells me it's like, there's it seems like for me a lot of times, always looking at the weather, sometimes it just seems like, man, it's just too windy or the weather, turned on me, it's going south. So maybe today's not a good fishing day, but for stripers, it might be the best fishing day.
Right.
So,
And
yeah,
like I say, I don't know what particular lake you're talking about, but like Santee, especially Moultrie, you have to be extremely careful and know what your winds are there because that lake can become the Atlantic Ocean really quick.
right. Yeah.
So you don't, if you know it's going to be 10 to 15, that's risky.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good
Uh,
point, Dave. I appreciate you reeling it back in there because, you know, we don't want people getting out there and getting
right,
swamped and having accidents either. So
right.
there is a
Uh,
point where it's too much. That's true.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Like watery, for example, 10 to 15 wouldn't phase me a bit. And the reason is because it's a river lake.
Right.
It's got twists and turns in it, so you can always find a place to hide there
Right.
and fish. Whereas Moultrie is like 12 miles across, 12 miles across,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just really an ocean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Marion's pretty much the same way if you're out there towards the spillway. Now, it's got creeks and fingers and different places you can go and hide as well at 10 to 15. But Moultrie, yeah, that's a different
Okay.
beast.
Well, David, I just want to say thanks again for taking the time to share some of your stories and your knowledge there. I think we've gotten a lot of great information from you on how to go striper fishing, and it's fun to hear some of your stories as well. So, thank you, sir, for taking the time to do this.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Kyle. Love talking to you. Enjoyed it. And look forward to anytime you got any questions, feel free to call me.
Yeah, all right, will do. Yeah, thanks, David, and I hope you can get back out there again soon. I know you've got a lot going on with the family and all of those things, but I'm glad you got to get out today. What a neat trip, that neat thing to do it for today on the podcast day. So thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure and enjoyed talking with you. And look forward to hearing some more of your podcast, buddy.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, sir. Okay, well, have a great rest of your night, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Kyle. Thanks. I'll
Thank,
send you that picture as well, too.
that'll be perfect. All right,
All right.
thanks, David. All right, bye.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Well, I hope that call with David Ward is inspiring for you to go after some stripers in the freshwater lakes. It's interesting that fish will operate differently in different water, different lakes. Sometimes the bite stays on longer than others in the morning, or just have different experiences with different bodies of water. I thought it was also great knowledge about fishing the drop-offs, the ledges for those stripers, and so just some great information. Grateful for David taking his time to share that. I wanted to do a little focus here on this idea of searching and wandering, as that often happens. At least for me, it does on the water, searching for the fish. It reminds me of Exodus 16. So the book of Exodus in the Bible is the second book in the Bible. So if you pick up a Bible, you'll see the first one is Genesis, and then the second one is Exodus. And Exodus is a book that talks about God's people being rescued from slavery. For many centuries of slavery, the people of Israel were oppressed in Egypt, and they were slaves. And God sent someone named Moses to go talk to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, eventually, through plagues and lots of persuasion, let the people go. And now the people are wandering as a group, as a nation, out in the desert. And it's not an easy go. They're wandering, they're searching for food, they're trying to find their way of life. And it's not easy, but God is leading them. He's directing them. He is their path. He goes before them by day with a cloud, and at night a pillar of fire, and he is literally leading them through the desert. And, if you ever go fishing in a new area and you don't know what to do, it's a good idea to hire a guide, or at least ask people that are local, hey, where do I go? What do I do? And here God is literally leading his people through the desert for 40 years, and it's not easy. And many of us have had that experience on the water. We're searching, we're wandering, we're like, where are the fish, man? I need some help. I don't know where to go, what to do. And so hopefully this podcast is helping out with some tips and tricks to help you know where to go. But let me read a little bit from Exodus 16 about the people wandering in the desert and feeling a little bit hopeless here. Starting in verse 1 of 16, the whole Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had come out of Egypt. In the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. Aaron's another leader. And the Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you have brought us into the desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Well, before we start judging the people of Israel here too harshly, let's just take a moment and reflect upon ourselves here. Sometimes we can go out with the best ambition and try to catch fish, and all of a sudden it's just a bad day. Like it's not working out, and we're having a hard time, and we can get discouraged. And the people here of Israel, they're out in the wilderness. They've gone through some miraculous things. Literally, God has done miracles in their lives, and they have forgotten that apparently, and are focusing on the fact that they're hungry. And gosh, hunger does that to a lot of us, right? I know it does to me. It makes us cranky and angry, and we got to have food to be happy again. Well, sometimes we forget that with our walk with the Lord, that, hey, he's right there. He's still the same God that's worked miracles in our lives before, and we feel hopeless. So same thing with fishing. I think, we're out on the water and we're having a bad day. Nothing's working. The trolling motor stopped working. Been there, done that. Or maybe you've even gotten your boat stuck at low tide, right? And you're stuck out there. You're like, oh man, I didn't get out of this creek in time, and now I'm going to have to wait for the tide to turn to just get me out of here. Well, it's easy to grumble, but I think sometimes it's harder to think about the solution, right? What do we do? Well, this is what God said to his people as the solution. He said this through Moses. Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread. God's going to rain down bread, like actually rain down food for them because they're hungry. He says, I'm going to rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them to see whether they really follow my instructions. And on the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. So God is saying, I'm going to bring food for you. Now, if you know the Bible, or if you've heard this term before, manna Manna is what this bread is called. And the people are going out. They've grumbled, but God has provided the food for them. He has provided for them this way to eat. And so literally God is saying, it's not by your strength that you're going to eat, it's by my strength that you are going to eat. And God is providing them, leading them in the desert, and then providing for them the things that they need. Now, I think when we go out on the water and we're looking for fish, you never know what's going to happen. You can go the right direction, you can be following the right path, and you still don't know if you're going to catch fish. Well, with faith in God, I think there can be times like that, right? Where you're reading the Bible, you're going to church, you're fellowshipping with God's people, and still it seems like you're not catching what you need. But I want to encourage you, trust the Lord. Trust the Lord. Don't give up on Him. Allow Him to be your provider. You notice in the manna situation there on the 6th day, He says, gather twice as much. And that's to provide enough food for the Sabbath, the day of rest, the day of worship, the day of reflection. So I think if we're prioritizing the day of worship, if we're prioritizing the day of rest, this idea in our hearts that we are prioritizing the Lord in our lives, He's going to provide for us what we need. And so I just want to focus on that a little bit here. Follow the path God has laid out. Follow the plans that God has established. We're not supposed to just wander aimlessly without direction in this life. That's why God sent His Son from heaven. He rained down the bread of life in our lives. So if we know Him, we don't have to wander aimlessly without a good path, without Him going before us and directing each step. So what does that look like? One, I want to encourage you to pray. You say, I don't know how to pray. No problem. The prayer is not about our ability. It's all about Him. And so I just want to encourage you, stop for a moment, be still, reflect upon God, and say, God, what do you have for me this day? God, what would you want me to do today? Lord, would you help me be sensitive to your promptings, to your leadings? And I believe He'll do that for you. But if we take a moment just to check the map, so to speak, just to see what's going on, what's the geography today look like? From what the best I can tell, our fish finders, their technology is amazing. It's amazing these days, but it's still not perfect. I want to encourage you that with whatever information you know about your day coming up, take it to the Lord and say, Lord, this is the map. This is the plan. This is what I have in front of me today. What would you have for me? How will you provide for me today, Lord? Go before me, lead me, guide me. The other thing is, read the technical guidebook, right? Like we have a Bible, and the scripture, the God's word tells us it's inspired by God Himself. So it's perfect. You can't get a better guide than that. You can't get a better charter captain than that, so to speak, to tell you how you actually find the bread of life today, to find that sweet taste, that wonderful the fulfillment in your life that you need. So pray, ask God, Lord, show me your way, direct me, go before me today like He did for the Israelites in the pillar by day and the fire by night, the cloud by day, the fire by night, and ask Him to do that for you. Go before you today. Read His guidebook. I think also fellowship with other believers. Find someone who knows the Lord and say, what is this like? I mean, really, be honest and real with me. What is it like to trust the Lord daily, to guide your path, and to be your provision, to be your bread of life? So if you do those three things, pray, read the Bible, and ask other believers, I believe He will go before you and guide you and show you the way. One of the things that David Ward was saying in the episode was that sometimes the best fishing happens on the worst conditions in terms of weather. I thought that was really great information. The people of Israel were wandering in the desert. Don't forget, it's a desert. I mean, I'm talking sand, I'm talking hot, like no water, like it's a bad environment. And God provided manna from heaven for them out in the desert. I want to encourage you, no matter how desert your situation seems, no matter how hopeless it might seem, turn to the Lord today. Allow Him to be your provision. And I hope the same for your fishing as well. I hope that you can get out there even when the conditions aren't great, when they're not perfect, and maybe you'll find sweet blessing by doing so. Thank you for listening to this episode of Eternal Fishing, talking about striper bass fishing with David Ward, and also learning a little bit about trusting God's provision and trusting His leadership in your life, even in the desert seasons. Hey, if you're enjoying the show, I would just be honored and grateful if you would share it with people that you know. I want to get the word out there about this show. And also, if you're a guide or if you have technical fishing knowledge, I'd love to connect with you. If you're out there and you got great fishing quotes that I could use on the show, I'd love to hear those as well. Email me at eternalfishingpodcast@gmail.com. That's eternalfishingpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.